All right, good morning. Happy Saturday, everybody. Wall Street Jesus here. Saturday sweep series. We are in the month of August. The summer's dwindling down here. And market's getting interesting. We got a good, I would say, week or two before we start talking about thinking about um, entering a rough patch seasonally in this market. Hold on, screen shows. What do we do page? Yeah, perfect. And you guys see the charts as well there, right? So this way, because we got stuck on one screen, that's why I was asking the last time. So yeah, I mean, August usually is a time to start thinking about what you have at risk anyway. Okay. And that doesn't mean get all bared up because, and we'll talk about this because I'm starting to see signs already that people are starting to take that scramble for protection, scramble for VIX exposure. So ultimately, guys, when they do that and they do that for enough time, the market already factors in, what's potentially going to happen anyway. Okay, so that doesn't mean to get out of cautious mode, but that means there could be some opportunities on the long side when that sentiment reaches an extreme. We'll go over some of the things I'm seeing currently. Okay, and flow has been messy. I mean, we just came out. We're pretty much in the heart of earnings season. We just got through some big names, and every day the flow has been just mixed, sloppy, no trend, no real direction. We're not. It's almost impossible to see maybe if they're starting to rotate into certain groups. And the reason being is when you get around these events, earnings season is a major event. The probability of hedging and protection goes up drastically. Okay, both on the put and the call side. On the call side, as we're seeing right now, a lot of times, especially coming off a rally, you'll see in names that have rallied significantly into the number, and a lot of players will just sell their equity. In other words, they may be holding on to a big position for a while, and they're sitting on nice profits on the equity side. And what they'll do is they'll sell equity and replace that position with calls. Okay, so you see a lot of people who just like to look at the flow off scanners and screens. You'll see a big $1 million block or $2 million block on the call side, and everyone gets all excited thinking, "Oh my God, what a big bet!" But in the meantime, it's just an individual or a fund who's been long the name, sitting on nice profits, and doesn't necessarily want zero exposure. So he sells a chunk of the equity and replaces it with a block of calls. All right. And when you think about it, if a guy sells, I don't know, 50,000 shares of XYZ at 40, $50 or something like that, and then, you see a $600,000 block of upside calls replacing it, it's not the type of activity that myself and what I try to show members to look for on a day-to-day basis. You hear the word aggressive a lot, right? You hear the word sweeper mentioned a lot, and that's nowhere near that. Again, the player's still bullish. He wants exposure to the name, but he's not aggressively getting long the name. He's actually locking in some profits. So we're seeing a lot of that right now. So it's been very messy, and we've been determined to try to isolate maybe tops 1 to 3 situations throughout the day to at least look into further. Okay, for myself, I'm day trading, so I'll look for anything that can create momentum. But if you're swing trading right now, you really want to be selective, and you really want to try to focus on the strongest type of action. Okay, so if you see a decent order in the name and it's just one order, you want to see them really come back for more, for it to be even worth your while to look at that name if it captures earnings. So that's pretty much been what we've been doing on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, A lot of people, it's interesting because I get agitated because every time I see an alert or flow, I got to see when they report earnings. You know, I got to dig. I'm not a big fan of that, but a lot of members mentioned to me they don't mind this flow because it gets them to be more selective. You know, when you got 3, 4, 5 decent looking sweepers out there, and you got to pick and choose what name you want to take for a spin, you know what I mean? It creates a little havoc on your end. But if there's only 1 or 2 names that really are even worth a look based off the action during earnings season, then it narrows it down and gets you to be more selective. And, you know, you could come to a decision a lot easier. So, interestingly enough, I've been getting feedback from members that they don't mind necessarily, you know, this type of environment. So that's where we're at right now. And just as a lot, I would say 95% of the flow out there is absolutely useless right now. As we get to the point where names that already have reported numbers, we start seeing flow in post earnings, it becomes the total opposite. In my opinion, that's the most important flow. Okay, so again, you see action in XYZ before earnings. Okay, so you don't want to necessarily touch the name. It's got earnings. You want to take a wait and see approach and see what it looks like after earnings. If they come back and take an aggressive approach on the call side in that name post earnings, that tells you there's a good chance that buying prior to earnings wasn't just earnings related. Okay, and it's legit and aggressive activity. So that creates even a more bullish signal for that name if you were eyeing. So post earnings, the flow can be really valuable, really valuable. And not only that, we start seeing what I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. We'll start seeing what the smart money, the aggressive money, where they're putting their focus. You know, are they going back into tech? Are they leaning towards the financials and the industrials, or is energy becoming a focal point? We'll start to see that with a little more clarity post earnings as well. So that's something to look forward to. You know, we still got a good amount of names to report, but some of the bigger ones have. We could talk a little bit about that. First off, let's get it out of the way because we were talking about it throughout the afternoon yesterday and a little bit before we started this webinar. The COL, those of you who are not aware, this Rockwell Collins caught some really sharp paper Thursday. Okay, so basically, this is daily, right? Here, it was, I think, early afternoon. I could actually pull the order up. Hold on. Just so you guys, here it is. All right, so you know what the hell we were looking at. So this was the action Thursday, okay? This was the quarter that got me, this was the sweeper that got me really giddy. Somebody swept 350 plus August 105s, laid $10, $10 plus in premium, swept multiple exchanges for it. About a $361,000 bet just off this order, which is significant alone in this name, came a little under 115. Okay, and you could see on Thursday, this thing absolutely ripped into the belt. You know, hit 119 and a half. So you're talking about over what is that? Yeah, over four and change, just on the rip off the action Thursday. Okay. Now, this was 2 of the orders. There was smaller sweeper activity around it, so there was more action than just this. But these were the 2 largest size orders, I would say. Okay, this was another one they paid up. That's why I put it with this. September 115s. Okay, so they go out a month. This is the same day. This is actually, here you can see 1320 and then 1541. So this is late in the day. And they sweep another, call it 200 grand worth, and you can see they pay up. The stock was 117.24 at the time. So the initial activity is coming in under 115. They're coming in and still sweeping this name. An hour or so later, 2 and change higher. Okay, so that was the action Thursday going into the bell. We get in Friday morning. Let me pull up a minute chart so you can see it. So we get in Friday morning, and it's all the way to the left of the screen here. Okay, so this was the rip into the close. Okay, and then right here we opened up, and sweepers came right in, right at the opening bell. So it's like they didn't waste any time. Again, we're looking for that aggressive approach, right? Where it's almost like put yourself in them shoes. You know, pretend you're these players. You have the resources to sweep multiple exchanges. You got thick wallet, and you can't get enough of this thing. You know, that's what we talk about. You know, that degenerate blood where you think you have enough, but you never have enough when you have confidence, high confidence in a name. So the next day, the bell rings. These guys start sweeping call side again. August, October, September's stock rips. Okay, it was up like 3 and change. Then it got a little quiet. Okay, the flow got a little quiet. Markets got quiet. And you can see this thing faded and just sideways the whole entire day. Deadwood. And then we get the news after the bell that this is going on. So UTX considered potential takeover. They actually made an offer, from what I heard, to possibly acquire COL. Okay, the stock, I don't know where it ended up, was up as high as 10, 11 bucks in the aftermarket. We'll see what happens Monday. Okay, but again, it's one thing if this type of news or something like this happens in a name that just catches normal flow or action. Okay, and you'll see this on Twitter a lot. Any name that has call buying and catches news, oh, look at this, look at that. I mean, it's so easy after the fact. You know, it's so easy. Like, in other words, out of all the names that catch call buying, this happens to catch news. How would I, you know, why would I look at this any differently than anything else that call buying? You know, what would make me buy this one rather than all the other names that didn't catch news and caught the same call buying? Okay, so that's one thing. If that was the case here, that wasn't the case here. Obviously, for the reasons I just went through, this was the goods in a sense. Okay, this is exactly like, I mean, I stress to members on an ongoing basis. If you could come into the steam room on a day-to-day basis and just wait for this, you're golden. Now, easier said than done. You know what I mean? Easier said than done. Because, you know, you're seeing action and a whole lot of other stuff, right? And it's not like any of the other actions not working out. I mean, you know, I'm day trading those sweeps all day long. And there's some stocks that really heat up, you know? So for you to, it's easier said than done to just sit and wait for these. But I mentioned before we started the recording, I have a group of traders that I work with my whole career, and they're serious about how they just look to, I hate saying spin their wheels. They look to get involved in the other stuff in a lighter way, but all their focus is not there. You know, ultimately it's just buying time for something like this to come around. And the name of the game with everything else they do is to try to make a little bit of money, you know, but more importantly, not get hit over the head with all the other crap. And wait for these type of situations to come. And, you know, that's when you really want to get serious. So, but like I said, this is a perfect example, and you guys have seen a decent number of examples now. That's another thing. We went through a period in time before the election, before Trump got elected, where this type of activity rarely would come around. Rarely. And since that election, there's just been a ton of it. A ton of it. You know, we see it in big names. We see it in some of the smaller names. You know, some under the radar names. If you guys remember, we saw it, what was it, 2 months ago in this MTSI, is it? Yes, I think so. But it got creamed too recently, I think. Yeah, the semi. But when they came into these, I think it was just pulled back here and just annihilated. You know, again, not the size you're probably used to everybody else talking about. You know, but that aggressive, and it's hard for me to explain because I've been, you know, watching these things my whole career. I call them the footprints of Sharpies. You know, it's you almost know it's not some speculation, you know, roll the dice speculation. It's real players, real money that's betting on the name. All right, in this MTSI, it was into, if I remember correctly, into these lows, and they hit it again over here, and then the stock just went nuts, absolutely nuts. So it may not look like much, you know, because now we're back down into the low 40s, but this thing got up to, what was it, almost 70, 67 bucks. You know, and then again, so you have low-key names like that, and then you have names like Netflix that can see that type of activity. All right, they hit December's. Okay, there was some call buying in a lot of different Netflix lines. All right, over the course of the last month or so. For me, the only real action, and you guys heard me say this numerous times, was that December sweeper. He swept to start the December 130 calls, and then as the stock started to push higher, he swept the 160s, the 170s. He went up the ladder. But initially, it was this December 130 calls. So, you know, it's not only about the unusual activity in the under the radar names. That Netflix December sweeper wasn't unusual. You know, by the common definition of unusual. It was sharp. Yeah, so again, this is the stuff we saw it in Tesla. Back now, where's the Tesla? I think, yeah, early in the year. So there was around, I think it was here. Into this little pullback here, there was a sharp sweep. And then actually there was news, I think 3-4 days later, some big shot took a big stake in the name. Yeah, and again, what type of run, what type of gains, you can never put a dollar amount or a number, exact number on that. You know, who knows? Stocks react differently to news, you know. Some may push higher. Some may have a huge short position. Oh. Here was the latest. The AAOI. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, the stock went from 50 to 100 in 3 weeks. All right, and granted, it shit the bed off earnings, you know, 50 points later. Who cares? That's irrelevant in my eyes. You know, that's like, to me, I had people on Twitter telling me, oh, that COL deal's never going to happen. Who cares? You know? All you were looking for was the reason why. The reason why that short paper came. When you get the reason, that's where you want to start taking risk off the table. You know, raising stops, trimming positions, rolling out if you're in options, leaving runners. Yeah, so that's it. And just one quick other point, because I get this a lot, and I feel the pain, trust me, because this is the story of my life as a day trader, let alone as a swing trader. The COL was a solid trade before the news Friday at the bell. You know, I showed you guys, they were sweeping this thing, and the stock rocked that afternoon. You could have locked in a nice profit. And then the next morning up 3, you could have locked in an even bigger profit. And there were a lot of people who took that profit, all right? So you know, you're sick when you see that news come out after you locked in a pretty decent gain in a short amount of time. You know, the shorter the time, the less amount of risk you had to take. And I would say, you know, and as I said to them, don't let that get to you. I mean, when you're in this game long enough, you know there's no way around it. All right, people will give you answers like they know a way around it, like there's an easy answer out there. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. I would say this, and this is what I've been saying to everybody regarding that. There's a lot of luck involved in that. Okay, if you catch the news, the sooner you catch the news, the more likely you're to be in the name, right? Believe it or not, if the stock doesn't react instantly and just sits there, you got lucky if there's news, because chances are you're going to still be in it because there was no profit to take. So there's a lot of luck that goes into it. The only solution, okay, that I've found throughout my experience and what I've seen, you know, traders who trade professionally do, leave a piece. Okay, so when you see, again, when it comes to these sharp sweeps, you just know you want to leave a little, you know, you want to have a longer leash. You're not going to treat this as you would, you know, just a normal sweep in Facebook. You get a nice profit in a day or two, you're going to lock that in. So you see sharp action in this name, you already know. You say to yourself, listen, I'm willing to give up some of my early profits and take that risk of giving that back because I'm looking for more, because this paper was so-called sharp. Okay? And then if you get a run-up, that's still something you feel you should take some risk off, you take some risk and leave a runner. You're not going to be as satisfied if you catch news. You'd rather have the whole position, but at least you left something behind and you're going to make some money off it. Okay, other than that, I hate to try to simplify it, but there's no other way. There's no other way. And especially options, you know, the longer you hold on to calls, the more risk you're taking on because of premium drain. So, you know, that's the only way to combat that. And trust me, you will be complaining of that throughout your whole career. I still scream at the screen. People hear me throughout the day constantly. I sell something and it just, you know, it rips seconds later. I'll sell a name that I even wanted to give a longer leash to, and then all of a sudden they come back and sweep the living shit out of it. Literally right after I sold. It happens all the time. But my biggest winners, I'd be the first person to admit it. My big winners, there's a ton of luck involved. It's all luck on my end. It's not talent. The big winners, I get lucky. All right, so that's basically it. We touched the COL. We'll go over some of the Friday activity. Then we'll just talk a little bit about the sentiment in the market right now. And something to keep an eye on for next week. And then I'll take some questions on any names that you guys have. Where is, here I am. I got to scroll up. Hold on. Let me get this out of the way. All right. So this is Friday's notables. Again, there's a ton of repeat buying out there. That's a common thing when you have a market rally, you know, long in the tooth in a sense. All right, JD, we all know already. Anybody who's a member or follows me on Twitter knows that JD has just been bombarded with call buying for quite a while now. All right, so I mean, we're getting to the point there, if not at it already, where yeah, there's not much we can say about this anymore. You know, they started buying this JD here, initial activity. You had big move, a pullback here. They rolled out everything they bought here and added to September's, I mean, a ton of September call activity. Then another move higher, pulled back, they hit it again, and they've been hitting the whole way up here. So, like I think with the BABA, I think this most likely will grind, market permitting, into the number, and then God knows, you know. Almost like that AAOI. We were talking about this in the room all day. Who in their right mind, honestly, let's be honest now, and this is not hindsight, who in their right mind would put on a new position in a name that went from 50 to 100 in 2.5 weeks going into earnings? Like, what did they have to say on the positive side for AAOI to benefit off that earnings? You know what I mean? After a move like that. And interesting, and they raised guidance. Okay, that was part of why sweepers, if you remember, they swept those weeklies, those lottos, and then the next day they raised their guidance, and they cashed those lottos too. You know, and they raised their guidance. It was almost like nothing left. Now, that's not saying I thought this would happen, but I thought there would be some profit taking, unless I really couldn't even come up with a reason that there would be some buying in it off this. But the risk reward there was just a disaster. So, you know, you're getting to that point with some of these names. I mean, if JD grinds into numbers, and, you know, JD's not as, not as vicious of an upturn as the AOI, but it may get there. You know, you started under 40, you're at 47 now. So all this flow doesn't tell us anything about what the reaction to earnings are going to be. You got to understand that, guys. Okay? They may be buying it because their earnings are solid, but by the time it gets to earnings, the reaction to the earnings is a whole different ballgame. So for anyone who's writing this out, again, I don't want to hear after the fact, oh my God, all that JD call buying and it was down on earnings. It means nothing. Okay, the call buying is telling us that the momentum is still there right now, just as it has been. Nothing about earnings. All right, so that's what they're doing there, adding JD, playing the grind. What else we got? PXD, this is a name I played twice on Friday into weakness. Got hammered off earnings. Energy name. So hammered off earnings. There was actually put sweeper activity that came into this bounce. They cashed the next day. And then weak again Friday. And into the weakness caught some decent action. I'm not going to lie. August 135 calls. There was quite a few of them. You can see this guy here, 520 plus. He swept multiple exchanges. August 135s, he played 303. All right, then another one came about almost an hour later, and this guy paid up 370. And it was a choppy trade, but I guess I got lucky in a sense because I'll show you how I played it. But the flow helped me out a lot. All right, so I think this was the two sweepers I played off of, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. The 1451. So that was over here. Where am I looking here? Oh, here maybe? Wait, 1451 is what? 251, right? Yeah, that's it, right? 14, yeah, okay, so 1451 right here. Okay, and then you could see the move there. All right, and then they came in on the dip here, and you had another push into the belt. All right, a lot more traded. I don't have the exact amount on there, but those were the two sweeps I think I played off of. Played it twice. Got lucky because the second one came on a fade. If the second one didn't come into a fade, I wouldn't have played it. because I sold it already off the first one. Here was interesting action. A lot of us played it, this thing on Friday. A couple guys took this for a swing because I guess they were bullish oil. Gush rarely catches activity, and the action was hot there on Friday. So this was a nice trade in the morning, actually grinded higher throughout the day. Like I said, a couple people took it for a swing because they like to set up an energy, I guess. But you can see the action came in early. They were buying September 20s, a couple of different orders. Some of the bigger orders were non-sweepers. You can see here non-sweep 2000 September 20s, 155. Then here 2000 September 20s, 160, all around the same price. So it had a nice little move here, and then a little bit of choppy like the market was, grinded higher, but held its own even through some washes throughout the day. All right, so this is a degenerate ETF, by the way, if you guys are wondering what the hell this is. This is 3 times bull oil and gas exploration. So a degenerate ETF, as I like to call it. Baba, again, like JD, just a ton of activity there. This was one of them, almost 2,000, August 157.5 calls for 345. Big size, but guys, Baba has been annihilated with size. CVE, if you guys remember, a couple of you guys were asking me about this. I think it was the first Saturday Sweep Series webinar we had. This is a beaten down energy name, cheap. I didn't try to day trade it. I'm not a big fan of trying to day trade these cheapies unless they get really hot action. But here's the story. They basically were buying this whole trip down here. Okay, so they started buying this thing, and the first batch, where was it? Maybe here? Somewhere around here. The first batch was underwater. This thing just kept selling. Any little rally got sold. But they kept adding to those December calls. Okay, so now it finally found a bottom, which is like a little miracle here, and making that curl. And here, the reason I put this order on here, because it's repeat activity, nothing huge, but it was a sweep of August 7.5. So they went in the money on this. All right. And, we discussed with a lot of these energy names like the CVE that caught a lot of activity, there was only one way to play them. You're going to buy December calls. If anything, try not to go in all at one level, but if you did, it's okay. But you're willing to risk what you put in, period. No stop losses, none of that stuff. You want to lose $5,000, that's what your stop loss would be. You put $5,000 into the December calls. You sit there, wait. You don't get stressed out by the day-to-day noise out there. And then if oil finally catches a decent squeeze and these things get a lift, maybe you get lucky, make some decent money on the Decembers. Okay, but that's the only way I see to play anything like that where the selling is just overwhelming. I think that's a good strategy in option land right now in general, to be honest, as we get into September, October. There was another page. Oh, here it is. Oh, here's an interesting Charter. So this guy buying Charter basically has a remote control on the stock. I kid you not. He's been incredible. Every single time this guy has hit this name, and this name doesn't catch a lot of action. So it's not like there's call buying all over the place. In my opinion, this is the same player syndicate that just keeps hitting this thing, and they've been right every single time. All right. They hit it earlier in the year. I think it was over here. And they caught this move in a week. Okay. Then they started, I think, buying here. They caught this move. Then here they came in super aggressive. And you can see the lift. So now this thing just caught news and gapped twice. And they're buying this little breather again. So I just want to make clear on this Charter, It's not initial activity, and you guys know how I'm a big fan of initial buying, okay? So this is not the first time they've hit this name throughout this rally. They've done it quite a few times. But the reason why I feel this is significant and worth a look is because this guy has been absolutely money. Whoever is playing this thing has been money on every order in this charter. And seems to catch some news too in the mix. So, all right. So charter, they added. This is repeat buying again. They put on some September 440 calls, 225. They paid on both these things. Opening activity, and usually this is decent size for of late in charter. This is nowhere near some of the bets. I'm talking about $1 million sweep in this name. Clean, not tied to stock or anything. But some decent repeat activity there. Goldman Sachs, I know a lot of you like to trade this name. Caught some cheap activity, a decent size though. It ended up being like 10,000 plus of the September 250s. Paid 38 cents. Opening bet. So about 400 grand as a whole there. Goldman, like the banks, has been lagging everybody else, but has had a little lift here. So we'll see if this Goldman starts to heat up. This is a little tougher for me because it's kind of a chase. If they hit it here, I would have liked it a lot better. Obviously, if they hit it into this, even if they were a little early, I would have liked it even better than that. But into strength here makes it tricky. Because, there might be some breathing here. These things have been rallying for a bit. The city has been much the best flow. You guys heard me mention that several times. They started in this little consolidation. The action got really hot there, and it has been bullish since. One thing I wanted to add here, that August call buyer, the August 65 calls, he bought a crap load. I think it was like 30,000. He ended up closing on over here. There's still about 9,000, I think, 9,000 in open interest left. All right, so he still has some, but he closed 30,000. But interestingly enough, we saw some September 70 call buying come in. So that could be him just rolling up and out. That's what they do, these guys. All right, but again, Citi, if you're in the name and you have time and you're looking to write it out, that's fine. As far as, opening new positions up here, most of you know my feeling. I'd rather do it off something like this. Again, even if you're a little early, let's say hypothetically this happens and you buy this dip. Okay, sweeper activity comes in here, nice action. They buy this dip, has a little lift. Taking, and then, comes down again. I'd rather that because I know it's off this consolidation rather than chasing any repeat action into highs. I don't want to do that. So we saw actually a little breather here. You members, whoever's a member probably remembers. They actually got lucky there that the day this little breather ended, caught aggressive activity, Citi. But Citi's been great. This was a repeat buyer, big order there, win. I want to see what open interest looks like because there was some other big stuff around it. So there may be some positions being moved around. This is another name a lot of you who have been stopping by on Saturdays for this sweep series know. This was another name with that sharp activity, sharp paper, if you guys remember. Off a little bit of a, what did I do there? A little bit of a pullback. I think they had earnings. But here, Win caught that deep in the money sweeper here, had a big gap up, caught news, okay? Then went into a breather and literally right into this pullback right here. They went nuts. had a nice rally, and we've been seeing bullish flow throughout. So there was some significant order flow on Friday, but like I said, I want to double check open interest just in case they might be moving stuff around. See, and that's the major problem, guys. If you're wondering why I always bring up that initial activity, is because even though you see big order flow in a name that has already caught a ton of call buying, usually, more than likely, they're not new positions. You know what I mean? Smart money, they don't chase up. Okay, you may see action, you may see some small momentum sweepers pressing, and they can create some nice momentum. All right, but the sharp players, all right, the guys who get our attention initially, they're not buying over here and then buying over here the same way. What they do is they buy here, they get a pop, they pocket some money, roll up and roll out. Meaning, let's say they buy September's here, okay? They get this lift, they close the September's, they put some money in their pocket, and they go out to November and go up the ladder. Go up in strikes. Okay, and then they catch another rally, they do the same thing. They close down some calls, they roll up, they roll out. And they do it along the way, and that's the smart money strategy for riding trends over the long haul. But one thing I will add, and we were talking about this in the steam room, there almost always, there will be a batch of call buying at the top that go south. Always. It doesn't bother them one bit. That's part of their strategy. Okay, they're willing to give up that last batch because they annihilated the thing the whole way. You know where we're seeing that? And you guys heard me mention this several times, the Micron. You see, everybody's talking about the Micron activity, the order flow. Everybody on Twitter, oh my God, the Micron buyers. God, did they get that wrong? No, they didn't get it wrong. They've been nothing but right in Micron the whole way. You know, and you can see I leave these boxes up for a reason because I'm not going to remember where they actually started. And Micron was another one, by the way, with the deep in the money sweepers it started. But Micron, they tattooed this little consolidation here. You can see in the box, they tattooed that, okay? And throughout this whole move, Micron has caught a ton of action, as most of you are aware. And that's what they do. They get a push, roll up, roll out, get a push, roll up, roll out. And yes, it's big size. I mean, these are big players. Okay? So now the key is, what do they do with Micron? It literally has been nonstop action, nonstop. All right, for me to get excited about any Micron activity, and I stress to you guys, you know, the last two webinars here, with Micron, you don't want to be in names, or you don't want to be, I should say, heavy. Okay, it's all right to play, but you don't want to rely on names that everybody and their grandmother knows about the action. Everybody knows about the Micron call flow. All of Twitter knows about the Micron call flow. People who I follow on Twitter and know on Twitter who don't even follow flow have been talking about the Micron call flow. You know, that's not where big moves start. That's usually where they die. So the ideal scenario for Micron would be for the action to go dead, for the flow to stop. It hasn't stopped one bit. Okay? The action to go dead, do nothing for a good 2 months, and then all of a sudden, sweepers start getting aggressive again. That would be, for me, the spot to look for a Micron. So, and this is a perfect setup right now. Okay? Micron pullback, people are getting discouraged. Soon they're going to start ignoring everything going on in Micron. So you want the flow to get quiet here. You want it to bounce around, shake and bake at the lows, do all that. maybe go sideways for a little bit, a good month and a half, 2 months go by, and then all of a sudden we start seeing sweeper activity step on the gas. And that would be an initial spot for a Micron play. Other than that, we've been talking about it. The only edge off the flow I see in Micron is if you get a wash like this and you see some decent activity come in. I'm not talking about one call buyer either. I'm talking about real aggressive activity where they keep coming for a trade. A trade, that's it. So in other words, you would buy into the weakness and you get this the next day. I would even take that if you got a profit there. I'm not talking about 400% on the calls. I'm talking about you got 25, 30% on the calls, you lock them in. And it could still be done. This weakness here they bought, you had this, you could have sold into. Okay? This weakness they bought, you had this that you could have sold into. So if you think that's worth it, fine. Otherwise, if you just want to buy Micron based off all the action you've seen, you need a lot of time there, and you should at least go out to January at the least. My opinion, it's done. It had its day. There's no edge off the action right now. None. I don't know how I got into a Micron rant. It seems to always come up. So that was the Friday activity. Let me just go quickly through the markets and what I'm seeing, and could be an interesting week. There has been an uptick in buying as far as protection is concerned. So we're seeing some put buying out there, both in the flow we follow and on the retail end. Okay, so people are interested in putting on protection. That's a good thing. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention was VIX and volatility products. There's been a big interest in that. That also could be a very good thing. We're going into next week as far as short-term sentiment, and that's a lot of the stuff I follow because myself and a lot of traders, we trade. We're short-term guys. We go into next week with a nice setup, meaning early next week, if there's any weakness, things are set up for a high probability squeeze. It wouldn't shock me at all if we get one more decent squeeze in before this month is over. I think it's going to happen rather shortly, over the short term, possibly early next week. All right, so that's what, so we're going basically leaning bullish into next week, into any weakness, and we'll see maybe if we could get some nice extremes on both the put to call, the squeezometer, which is a measure of retail opening activity in the options market and stuff like that. But things are really, really close. The put to call is up at elevated levels, not at necessarily extreme levels yet, but elevated. So again, that's why we're going with the approach into next week that weakness will be an opportunity, okay? As opposed to if we were going into next week on the opposite side of the spectrum. If we were going in at bullish extreme, where everybody was bullish, right? No put buying, retail call buying, no interest in VIX, then weakness wouldn't be an opportunity, you know, because there could be some downside to wash them out. And also, some of the bigger names, the beloved names, are seeing some washed out sentiment. If I can't even get myself to say it because it's hard to believe. The Amazons of the world, the Google of the world, those type of things. All right, so I know a lot of you guys like to trade these names. Those things as well go in nicely set up into next week. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. Again, we're at the point where any weakness will be looked at as an opportunity. The one thing that sucks is that the flow has been abysmal. And I can't say bearish because we don't know if it's bearish. That's the problem. You understand? I'll never say the flow is awful if it's bearish because that tells us, me and members that to pull the reins in on the long side, to take it easy, right? If they're getting aggressive on the put side, that means let's take it easy on looking for longs right now. But it's really sloppy. That's the problem with flow. Like Friday was a pretty bullish day. Let me see if I could. Okay, this is Friday. Okay, so Friday the flow leaned bullish throughout the whole day. Actually, myself and a couple of members, we were playing for a squeeze Friday. We never got it. It was dead. But we thought there was a chance of a squeeze because the flow was bullish as compared to what we saw the rest of the week. Here's what the flow's been looking like. Look at this, okay? Green, 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 red, 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 green, green, red, red, green, green, red, red. And almost every put buyer, whatever name it is there's earnings, green, 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 red. This is what we've been seeing, a menagerie, mashed potatoes. Look. So no trend, but again, that's common. They're an earnings season. It's quite common. That's why you hear me bitch and complain about earnings season. It throws a monkey wrench in getting a clean read as far as sentiment is concerned. So, all right, that's what I just wanted to add in regards to sentiment. If you have any questions about that, you can hit me up. Throw out some names. Let's see what you guys got, and we'll go from there. Let me get to charts and get this in some sort of order here where I'm organized. All right. All right, what do we got here? Who's got some names? Let's start. Tesla. Jim is talking about Tesla. Tesla had some nice action, Jim, Friday, right? Tesla, this is one of the reasons, too, we were playing for a squeeze. Tesla was a nice one. A couple of guys in the room caught it for a day trade Friday. Tesla was catching a lot of weekly expiration that expired yesterday, as you probably saw, Jim. So those are gone, obviously. The stock was strong all day off the flow. And late in the day, about the last hour, I would say, 45 minutes, the action got hot again. They were buying next week. They were buying September 400s or something like that. So Tesla, was really bullish going into the bell yesterday. Again, a lot of momentum sweepers playing the run-up Friday. But then late in the day, they started really going after next week. There was some Septembers in the middle of the day as well. So Tesla looks good. Had a nice move, too. Nice squeeze there in Tesla. ArcelorMittal. No, I haven't looked at the steels. It's been hanging in, right? Yeah, this quarter activity, a lot of the steel names are catching action, Nick. Now looking for that tariff news. Nobody knows when, right? There's no date. Soon is the thing I heard. So we're seeing some flow trying to play off that in a sense. I know this Mittal caught some nice steam. What was it, about a couple of weeks ago or something? Are you long the name, Nick? Yeah, so looks good though. Looks good. It's been consolidating here, but look at that move, So you like this off a move like that. Like you saw what X did. X, they knocked the shit out of it when it off a move like that. So you gotta like this consolidation. I haven't seen an uptick in flow since that steam came in. But that doesn't mean anything, because they're already in. But it does look interesting. We'll see if they come and revisit. UAL, no. We saw some pre-earnings activity in UAL. Oh, UAL? Oh, I was thinking about the other name. UAL, I haven't seen anything. UAL, we saw, there was one good-looking sweep in, I think it was a sweep. One good-looking order in UAL. It was somewhere in this consolidation. I think it might have been in here. Never did anything. Faded and then had this rip where it finally looked like it was going to take off, and then they got killed. I haven't seen any action since Young. I just saw that one order, to be honest. The rest was little small stuff. Snap. Yeah, Snap had action. Listen, Snap is always going to see some sort of call activity out there. You got to understand, because people, they're short the name. That's the easiest way to hedge and protect the short side. But there was some half decent looking call activity the last couple of days as well on that Snap. But she had a little lift here, you know? She had a little lift. There was some Friday action too. Let me see. Snap. Let me put just calls here so I don't flood the thing. Here was the action Friday. So you have some for next week, for August, and for Jan. Next week, the 15s and 16s. 15s got some size. August, 15 and a halves. So there's been some action. The other stuff has been small, really. I mean, Friday caught some action. But, you know, Snap is a tough name. I mean, listen, it can be traded. I actually like to day trade Snap when it's red. In other words, if it catches action like this and there's weakness, it can change this, you know, it can change the trend intraday. You could get some short covering. But aside from that, you know, it's something you really want to try to be quick on. You know, you take your profits quick, unless you have enough time. You know, unless you're saying, I got Jans, Febs, you know, and I'm looking for a half-decent squeeze there, you know, unless you're playing for that. Otherwise, you can see they slap these rallies quick. Costco. I haven't seen anything noteworthy in Costco. Little small stuff. The most notable order in Costco that I saw was on the put side. I told you guys last week. I'll show you. Wait, hold on. Everything else, you know, there's some call buying, but nothing that really is exciting me. Where is he? No, that's not it. Oh, here it is. Nope, right here. So that was on, excuse me, June 16th. And they played, excuse me, the Junes. They play the Junes next year. June 140 puts. Look at the size, though. 1,400,000 sweeper, another 150. But that, you know, that's 10 points ago. That was at 169, 166. So that's old news now, you know. Oh, actually, that's 15 points ago. Jesus. That's 15 points ago. Yeah, they hit it on the day it got off the Amazon thing. That's the day they hit it. Those Junes and all that. You know, so that was a while. But I haven't seen any action there, no. The only one out of those names that got hit, Ulta, was the only one that saw decent call buying. They were Septembers and Jans. She still hasn't done a thing off it. There was actually a hit piece right after that, if you remember, but sort of worked that out already. We'll see maybe if this Ulta can try to chop around, find a bottom here, and they come back and sweep it again. That's what I would be looking at off the Ulta. Because like I said, 2 bets already in there that were decent looking bets. What else we got? One saying, in regards to AAOI, was there any unusual action this past week? The only action there was on the call side. There were some big blocks of calls. Now, again, a lot of people can mistake that for call buying, but in reality, they're selling equity and buying calls to replace the equity into earnings, which is the smart move, right? So in other words, you sell $15 million worth of stock or whatever it is, and you buy, 600 grand worth of calls. So they lost 600 grand here, but they saved themselves a chunk on the equity end. You know what I mean? But again, there was some small protection, stuff like that, but nothing. Again, one, you got to understand, there's call buying and put buying all day, every day, on everything. So there's always activity, but there was no activity that stood out to me, put it that way, that I would take action on. That activity was back here again, where that sharp paper started, as a lot of you know. What else we got? PXD. It's interesting. Lucci loves this name. I know he wasn't around Friday. He loves trading this name, both on the long and the short side. And usually does well off the action. Usually. Oil these days is in its own little world. But, you could see a squeeze there, Jim, I'm sure. It was decent action. It was decent action. You could definitely get a squeeze there. What names did I miss? PXD, UAL, I got WLL. That's another energy name that always sees a lot of call activity. They've got completely run over in this name. As a lot of oil names, guys. A lot of smart money torched in energy. A lot of money in general, Energy's tough. We spoke about this a couple webinars ago. Here's the problem I find with energy. When you get a strong correlation with energy and the price of crude, I don't even see the logic in playing oil stocks. Play an ETF or play CL. You know what I mean? What's the point? Because what happens is you get a little lift in the energy name with some buying coming in. So you get some call buying that comes in. There'll be some momentum over the short term. Then you walk in tomorrow morning and crude is getting annihilated. What do you think is going to happen to these oil stocks? So that's the problem with these things. Now, I get it. They offer, big risk, big reward here for a squeeze. I totally get it. But I would just make sure I have enough time if you want to catch a decent squeeze. But there's some names to eye. There's definitely some names to eye. There's WLL, nothing of late that really caught my eye, but I just wanted to point out it catches a lot of option activities, WLL. Don't let the stock price fool you. This WFT, really active names. The Chesapeakes of the world, the SWN, all that stuff. And, that's not bullish in a sense. I'd rather it be a little more quiet, but it is what it is. What else? AMD. AMD is in that, Micron, WDC, Win. It's in that group, It's tough to get an edge off the order flow unless you're just looking for a quick trade. Again, I think all these names longer term are bullish, guys. Don't get me wrong. I think they're all bullish. There's been a ton of buying forever in them. AMD, they went up the ladder out in Jan. What were they? Jan 17s, 18s, $20. But, that doesn't mean it can't go to 11 and change first. That's the problem with these things. The action's been going on. You think Micron, it's been a long time, the action? AMD is even longer. I remember AMD, they were buying a year out Jan $2 calls, okay? And there was a sweeper for 300,000 of them. I shit you not. 300,000 of them. Jan $2 calls. If you did a Twitter search, you'd probably find when I posted it. That's back in 2016, but that's how long this action's going on. So you see strong run, pullback, consolidation, strong run, pullback, move, pullback, move. You know what I mean? So the same thing like Micron. You want to see maybe a pullback, some consolidation, and the activity start to heat up again, and that would be a nice entry, in my opinion. And now off this move, I think, or if this little pullback, if you see some aggressive activity come in Monday, it's a possible trade, but not something I would say, oh, let me just, it's initial activity, let me hold from here and try to hit a home run type thing. If that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. Corning, Corning's interesting. Caught that sweeper activity. And coincidentally, I saw an article on it, how a couple of fun guys, too, were bullish on this name rather than some of the big boys. I'm not a big fan of the name. I'll be honest with you. Decent action, not jaw-dropping buying, if that makes sense. But had some bullish call activity in it recently. Where are we here? All right. SPWR, that pulled back off earnings, Jim. I saw a little bit of flow in it Friday. Nowhere near what we saw initially. Hold on. It was really small. I don't think it made the board, but I saw some nibbling. Let's see. Oh, it did make. Yeah, there was. What's that? 720. Oh, I'm too far back. Wait a second. Oh, that expired, so it didn't make the board. So here was the big guys, Jim, as you probably know, right here. That was decent size for a name. You had a September sweep and you had a December sweep. That's when the stock was in the 7s. And, now even off the pullback, where is she? Is she back down there? No, she's still over 9, But again, for a trade, if they come in here, Jim, we saw some nibbling. If they come in Monday and they start, we see action like we saw what I just pointed out, without a doubt, worthy of a trade. Yeah, solar, that first solar has been incredible. That's had some nice action. The best action over Mole was this thing. Did she report yet? The CSIQ? No. So, this thing's been breathing nicely. We'll see what she looks like off earnings. But this had the best flow out of all of them. Napur, what are you saying? You paid for entire year, still asking money for Twitter feed. What do you mean? You're a member of the Steam Room and you can't access private Twitter? Did you request a follow? In other words, from your Twitter handle, go there, request a follow, and I'll make sure when I... Okay, no. In other words, go from your Twitter, go request a follow. Go to SL_Steam Room, click follow, and then I'll get them to put you through. So you'll be able to get on there today. All right? Yeah, sometimes you got to email Seth once in a blue moon, but I'll get him to do it for you. What else? Hold on. Google. Yeah, I mentioned Google, both Goog and the Google. Which one put the order November? Oh, I don't even know if it made the board. But anyway, these things look interesting. They look interesting. The action, the most notable action that I saw off this pullback on November's. So there's some November call buying, and if we have the luxury, they come in and start hitting some front month stuff. That would help out with the short-term timing. But I like the sentiment set up in these things too. definitely one to keep a close eye on. You know, that and the Amazon, in my opinion. You know, again, for a trade, guys, you know, and then listen, you get a trade, you leave a runner looking for highs, that's fine. You know, at this point, you just got to be careful with trying to ask too much out of things. You know, because we could squeeze hard for a couple days and chop around, and who knows, September we can get a little crazy. You know, again, September, October, well, October is known for bottoms, but September usually a notoriously bad. You know, you got government shutdown talk. You know, I don't get wrapped up into it, but one period of time throughout the year that always scared the shit out of me when I was fully invested was the period of time we're heading into. Okay, that doesn't mean there aren't long trades out there. You know, like I'm saying now, heading into next week, I think we got a shot at a squeeze. But, you know, a lot of times I see it more than I ever knew it existed, more out of some of the newer members. They think, you know, everything that maybe is trade worthy has home run capability. You know, you can't look at every name you look to trade as a potential home run. We're traders, you know? Unless you're an investor, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. Unless you're a long-term trend trader, that you're writing these things and writing long-term trends, that's a different story. I mean, you guys are option players, short-term traders. You know, you're looking to buy something into weakness and sell it higher short-term. You know, so you got to understand that. I think there could be a trade setting up in these things. That's what I think. But again, you could have that luxury. Okay, let's say Amazon, right? Let's say there's some Amazon sweepers come in, stock's down $3 Monday, you buy some September calls. Okay, you catch a nice squeeze in Amazon back to, let's say, here. All right, you want to hold some of it, lock that in, you know, take a portion of the money, go out further, and put a portion of the money in some calls. But you got to take some risk off. You got to lock in some profit. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't look for home runs, but not everything you play, you know, you can look at it with home run glasses on. Apple, the flow's been bullish, but Apple's been strong. You know, Apple's been strong. There's no real edge there. I mean, the Apple flow has been ridiculous. Again, that's, you know, long in the tooth. Here's the Apple flow. I mean, it's been nonstop bullish. This is August 1st. Those were weeklies they were writing. Then look at this guy. Oh, that one might have been into earnings. June sweeper of next year, 175s, 600 grand. And then you had small stuff, but, you know, look at the big stuff here. You had some big stuff. December. See, a lot of the bigger action is further out. You see, look at this. October, that's Jan 2018. Oh, that's Jan coming up. I lost track of my days there. So you have Jans. You know, you see all the size? All the sizes with time. And they could be rolling out. They most likely are. I mean, this name has been, you know, rallying for a bit here. SQ, Chuck, they're all loaded in Jans already in SQ and have been long for quite a decent amount of time. Let's see. Been quiet of late. Let's see. You can see July 10th was the last time it caught any really notable sweeper activity. Stock was 23. Where is she now? She had a little pullback, right? 25. But you can see how quiet it got, Chuck. You know, but as you scroll back here, you'll see, and this is decent size alone. you know, 170 grand, 150 grand when the stock was 23, 24. Look at this guy. December 20s, okay? I mean, this order. This was the order right here. This was it in square. But that's back at the end of May. December, in the money, $20 calls, $800,000 sweeper right there. And then, look, a couple of days before that, look at the size. So they calmed down a lot now. Yeah, so now you got some, exactly, post earnings. We'll see how the flow looks now, you know. But you can see they started, I mean, that sweeper was May. So they started throughout here. I had a big move. But there were some Jans too. So they got some big positions there. WDC. Well, WDC had news Friday. I will say this. I posted it on Twitter. We were talking about it too, members. Usually on the pullbacks, they get really aggressive. They haven't got aggressive yet. We saw algo put sweeper activity in WDC. Me and Jim were talking about it before we started the webinar. It was right into the news. Okay, algos probably caught the Toshiba news Friday. They were buying weeklies at 18 cents. They went over $1 off this pull. Young, good question. I'm still waiting for Netflix. Yeah. Netflix, I actually played Netflix and I got stopped out for a small loss because it moved too fast. I was actually up on it, didn't take it, and then got stopped. Netflix, what we saw was some smaller weekly momentum sweepers. I didn't see that one clean, good-looking order that I mentioned I was hoping and looking for over here. See, so you had, on this pullback, you had the December Sharpie that we were talking about, right? He hit it into this, got a little lift, came back down a little bit lower, and hit the Decembers again. That's all she wrote, then earnings. So now you got this little breather here, which I like. Again, not initial activity, but if you missed it and were looking for an entry, you don't want to buy this, okay? You want to wait for something like this. And coincidentally, the flow has gone quiet. There's some small flow, but nothing really eye-popping. So now if Netflix catches heat, meaning multiple sweepers, or a really good-looking aggressive order, that would be, I think, a nice setup for a trade here. You know, kind of what we were looking, if you guys remember, First Solar had this, if you remember. So the same thing, First Solar, this whole trip up, ton of action, okay? You didn't want to chase, you're waiting for this. Things go quiet. They actually hit this early, and they were underwater a bit, but then look what she did now. You know, so that's what I like. Again, instead of chasing, I look for this. You know, that's what you want to look for as a swing trader for a trade out of these things. You don't want to buy when everybody wants to buy and they're robbing you on premium. You want to buy them when they're dead. See, and like a lot of people tell you, the time not to buy calls in FANG or high beta names is when the momentum's dead. You hear that all the time. And it's the truth, okay? But that's where I think the sweeper activity can give you the edge over everybody else. The sweepers can give you a heads up of when the possibility, there may be a high probability of that momentum picking up again. Make sense? You understand? Because if you're sitting through this here, waiting and to try to figure out when this may resolve, you know, what are you looking at? You know, what are you looking for? What signs? So if you see some sweeper activity come in, I mean, there's a high probability that this thing could heat up. I mean, there are times they don't, but again, if you were eyeing the name anyway for an entry, you're not going to be worse off waiting for sweepers. Again, that's where the edge is. That's where the edge is. You know, it's not in the every alert off the board is an actionable trade. You allow things to set up. And then you let the sweepers give you a heads up on what might be in play. That's all. Yeah, and they do a good job of that. Yeah, Alex, the WDC, I know Toshiba, I mean, it was a big deal, but I don't know the news well enough to know how big of a deal. Oh, you're saying it came out the night before? Well, that's strange. Yeah, I don't really try to get into the news, because that had bit me in the ass too many times throughout my career. You know, I try to let the market tell me what's going on, even though it may not be a big deal. If they're selling it like it's a big deal, I'm not going to sit there and get run over because I don't think it's a big deal. You know, but I understand what you're saying. We see that a lot, though, right? We see old news just get rehashed. And, you know, shorts use it as gunpowder. That's what they do, Al. They pump the same news out there, and they look to get downward pressure on a name they're shorting. Microsoft 2, Young, is interesting. I looked at that Thursday because it had a nice little setup there. Friday, there was a little bit of buying. It was further out, but nothing too exciting. A little bit of bull flow Friday. Let me see. I think it might be on the board. Again, Microsoft has had a ton of bullish action too, but had a nice little breather there. So that's why I was interested. What is this? Oh, no, those were weeklies expiring. Oh, those were in the money. They were playing a grind. 7. Not big, pretty quiet. You know, pretty quiet. So, you know, definitely a place to look and see if the activity heats up. I'd rather come on a red day. That'll be nice. Rather than a green day and chasing. But you can see, does this same little breather here. I remember there was a ton of sweeper activity that came into this breather. You know, nice tradable move. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on Microsoft flow. Without a doubt. All right. Did I get everybody? If I didn't, I'll take a look at that. That's the link, Alex? From where? Oh, Reuters. Yeah. I'll take a look at that. That's interesting. Probably shorts, Al, trying to just pump up their shorts. Yeah, Barry, I spoke about Corning. I'm not the biggest fan about Corning. There's been some bull flow there, though. You know, nothing COL-like. Nothing AAOI-like, bull flow. You know, the only thing I would say is that Charter, but I told you the one smear on it. It's that, you know, this is not initial activity there. But somebody who knows what the hell's going on in Charter, it has been buying again in this little consolidation here. You know what it reminds me of, this Charter? Jesus, I forgot the symbol again. But it wasn't even as handy. What was that telecom company where they had a bidding war? It was gapping up every day like a maniac. We were just talking about this Friday, and I forgot the symbol already. Starts with an S, I think. 4 letters. You guys don't remember? Let me think. I can't remember. No, not TMUS. It was a lesser known name. SPTR. What's SPTR? That sounds familiar. Is that it? No. Wait, you got the wrong symbol there. It's something like that, Alvin. Yeah, Straight Path. STRP. That's it. You had to write letters, Alvin, just in the wrong order. All right, Jimbo, be good, brother. Yeah, so you see this here? A little different, but the same thing. We kept seeing activity come in, and we were like, come on, we can't chase it. And then it gapped up again. And then there was call buying, again, in size. I mean, what's going on here? And then, it's crazy. Like, they're, you see, like, this NXPI, and sometimes we don't know. This NXPI, I kid you not, there's been call sweeper activity, it seems like every week in this thing, all right? And I totally ignored it because I thought it was maybe people playing an arbitrage thing or something. I thought they got bought. I have no idea that, I wasn't even thinking maybe there's a higher bid or something. And then we find out that there may be somebody else coming in. I thought this deal was done. And meanwhile, there was call sweeper activity in this thing. Yeah, Poe, you mentioned that. I appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you in there, buddy. I know you're away. So yeah, the charter is the one interesting, the interesting name that's left. Again, we would be talking about COL if the news didn't hit at the close, because that was probably the most interesting flow of the week. Other than that, guys, it's been, again, choppy, mixed, and just a lot of the same old, I can't get excited about JD flow anymore. I can't. It's kind of all those BABA. Again, I think these things can grind. I think you can trade them short term if they sell them. Here's a perfect example. Okay, BABA, you had this selling. Okay. And there was some action that came into BABA weakness. That's a trade there in my eyes already. So I know that may not interest a lot of you, but at this point, unless you're already in it and you're looking to ride this thing up until earnings, that's the only edge you're going to get out of the flow right now. Everybody knows BABA's been catching call line. Been going on a long time now. So I don't mean to just brush you guys off when you ask about these names. I know why you're asking. A lot of you are sitting in them, profitable, or you see them go up every day and you're looking to buy them. But yeah, again, this is not, when it comes to the type of flow I look at, this is not the stuff you want to focus your time and energy on. Quick trades, fine. You want to try to grind it up, make a little money. It's the stuff like the COL activity, AAOI activity, that type of stuff where you're going to really paint your P&L as a swing trader. So, all right, but I appreciate everybody coming around again another Saturday. Some are dwindling down here, guys, but again, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. You could go to wallstreetjesus.com, all right, to learn more about what the hell I do, what we offer in regards to our product. All right, we have throughout the Saturday series, we offer 50% off the first month. You get access to basically everything. You're not left out of anything. This is the main room here. You would be in the members only section. You would have access to all this as well. You get the search, okay, the live feed, obviously, with the flow. But more importantly, I think the biggest boost and the most helpful boost has been the live feed. I'm on throughout the day and sharing, my thoughts on the activity coming in. Again, we don't expect you to come in and notice the COL activity on your own. It's not expected. You will learn eventually, but we're not expecting that. So I'm on there talking about the activity and how I feel about the activity, why it may stick out more than others do, why I may not be excited about it, and so forth. So whether day trading, swing trading, investing, trading ES. In my opinion, there's a edge out of Wise Guy Action for everybody. It takes discipline and waiting for what suits you best in finding that strategy. But again, there's no specific way you need to trade. Or you could trade futures, you could trade stocks, you could trade equities. A lot of equity traders. Not everyone's an option trader. So you don't need to be an options aficionado to get in here and figure out a strategy for yourself. All right, so that's the 50% off the first month, and then it's $225 every additional month. You get everything. You also get access included to private Twitter. All right, that is this here. And basically, this is the action throughout the day, all the alerts, same alerts, real time, okay? I throw some open interest pre-market, some post-market recap stuff as well. No audio, video, and no access to the Steam Room, but you get all that. And this is included, okay, in the Steam Room membership. If you're looking just to get a feel for the flow, or looking for something more affordable, at the time, we spun off private Twitter, now $59.99, and you get access to private Twitter. Scroll to the bottom of the page, wallstreetjesus.com, put your Twitter handle there, and you'll get that going. All right. Other than that, like I said, you have any questions, you guys know where to find me on Twitter and everywhere else. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Any questions, wallstreetjesus.com. One last thing before you guys run. Also at wallstreetjesus.com, you can go up here and see these tabs. And if you want to learn more about the strategy, there's a couple little write-ups here that you might find useful. Using Wise Guy Flow to gauge smart money sentiment, looking for big moves, sweeps, talks about sweeps if you're not familiar with them. In order, whether it's a hedge or not, does it matter, how to use the information. So that's just at wallstreetjesus.com, the strategy section right there. All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Should be an interesting week. Hope for a little weakness Monday, and I think maybe we got an opportunity as a squeeze. So we'll be in good shape there. Enjoy, guys.